the Music Theory Lady. Hi guys, welcome back to the Music Theory Lady. Today we're talking about articulation and road signs, which brings us to our first question. What is articulation? Well, articulation is the manner in which a note is played. So before today, we've talked about how notes can be loud and soft and the symbols we use for those, how to play notes fast and slow and the symbols that we use for those in tempo markings. And then today we're going to talk about how to specifically play that note. We've actually discussed one of these before. We talked about the term legato, L-E-G-A-T-O. And when we talked about legato, we were talking about smoothly connecting notes with a slur. So we use that slur to smoothly connect. So when you're playing that note, the way you would play it is as smooth and connected as possible. So legato would be one of those articulation terms. Again, for all of these terms, you have to know the Italian term, the symbol for them, and then the English translation. So the first we're going to talk about is the opposite of legato, which is smoothly connected. We're going to talk about staccato. Staccato, right here, you can see the symbol. It's got that dot just above the note head or just below the note head, and that means to make it as short and detached as possible. So to compare, legato would be da 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 da, and staccato would be da 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 da. So you're wanting that good amount of space in between each note in terms of the sound. The next one we're going to talk about is accent, and here you can see that symbol. It's just a little bitty alligator mouth or something that goes just above or below the note, and it means to play the note louder with special emphasis. So when you get to that, let's say it's da 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 da, you're going to play that one just a little bit stronger. Next one is called sforzando, and you can see that sometimes as an SF or an SFZ. And a sforzando is a sudden, strong accent. So it's like an accent, but even bigger. There's a lot of misunderstanding about sforzando. A lot of teachers or directors teach it as it means to play really, really loud, and then get soft, and then get gradually louder, which is not exactly true. Sforzando is just a strong note. Yes, usually after it, everything is softer in comparison, but it's not necessarily an instruction to play really loud and then really softly. Also, again, a lot of people interpret it as a symbol where you play really loud and then soft and then gradually get louder. Well, usually that symbol is either sforzando and then a crescendo, or it's sometimes we call it an FP, a forte piano, meaning immediately loud, then immediately soft, and then a crescendo after it. So sforzando doesn't necessarily mean all of those things together. You'd have to include a few more symbols to create that effect if that's what you were wanting. And then we have the tenuto. The tenuto is that short horizontal line just above or below the note head, and it means to hold the note for its full value. So sometimes we have the inclination to play a note just slightly shorter so that we can get to the next note. But in this way, we're trying to make it last for as long as the composer actually said to play that note. So there are some people who interpret this as a little bit more of a stress on the note. If you're singing, you might even interpret it more as like another way of showing smoothly connected, because you're trying to keep that note all the way to the end of the note, maybe to touch the next note, but holding the note for its full value. And then the last one, I may have already said that, sorry. Here's the last one, is the fermata. It's the one that has the semicircle on the top and the dot in the center. My piano teacher used to call this the bird's eye, and that means to hold the note for longer than its full value. So if you are a solo player or you're playing on your own, you can hold that for as long as you want. If you are playing with a director that's showing you how long to hold that note, then you would need to wait for them before you can stop playing that note. Okay, that brings us to road signs. To reduce the amount of music needed to notate a piece, several additional Italian words and symbols are used by composers to indicate repeats. So instead of just saying repeat, or instead of writing out pages and pages and pages of music, we have these extra symbols that we can add in that sort of help organize the music a little bit more so that we don't have to print as many pages, which is kind of nice. So the ones we're talking about today are DC, DS, Coda, and Fine. So again, Italian symbol and English for all of these. The symbol that we're going to talk about first is DC. DC stands for the Italian words da capo. Da capo actually literally means the head. And so when you see DC, it's meaning to go back to the beginning or to the top, essentially. So repeat from the beginning. Then there's DS, and DS stands for dal segno in Italian. And that means to repeat from the sign. So rather than going all the way back to the beginning, you're going to go back and find this symbol. And here's that symbol, kind of the squiggly S with two dots and a line through it. That is the sign, or the segno. And so you have to go back and find that in the music and then repeat from that point on. Then we have the fine. Believe it or not, the Italian word is fine, the symbol is fine, and then the English is the end. So if you see the term fine in your music, it means that's where the music is actually supposed to end. And no, it's not always at the very end of the music that you're looking at. And then there's this symbol, this sort of circle with the cross through it, and that is a coda sign, and it's an added ending. So a coda is what we sometimes add to the very end of a piece, and if you see that symbol, it means to head on down to the coda. So we're going to look at these now in context. We're going to put some of these signs together and really make some road maps out of them. So here's an example. It tells us with the DC al fine, so da capo, remember, is going back to the beginning, and then al fine means then repeat to the end. So if we played this piece here, we'd start at the very beginning. We'd sing this half note, so ta, 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 rest, rest, rest. Yes, I see a fine, and usually that means the end, but really we're going to wait until we have the instruction of what to do with that fine. So we're going to keep going through ta, 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 ta. Now I see DC al fine. That means to repeat all the way back to the beginning and then only go until you see the word fine. So now after these two quarter notes, we're going to go back to the beginning and do ta, 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 rest, 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 the end. So fine in this one actually means we're going to end right in the center of the piece. But just be careful, the first time you see fine, it's not the end just yet. You have to wait till you have the instruction of where to repeat back to so that you can come back to that fine. Here's another example. Here's a DS al fine. So this is where we're finding the sign. So starting at the beginning, we're in 3/4, give us 3 beats, 1, 2, and sing ta, 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 rest, rest. Remember, we're not going to do anything with this just yet. Keep going. Rest, ta, ta, rest, ta, ta. Now I have an instruction DS al fine. That means go back to the sign. Here's the sign. So again, we're not going all the way back to the beginning. We're just going back to the sign, and then we're going to go into the fine to the end. So from these two quarter notes, we're going to go back to here in these 3 quarter notes and do ta, 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 rest, rest, the end. Okay. Next one is DC al coda. So now we're getting that added ending in there. So we're going to start at the beginning. We're in 4/4 now. Ta, 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 ta. I see this coda sign, but again, it's like the fine. I'm not going to follow it until I know how I get back to it and then do it the second time through. Ta, 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 rest, rest, rest. Now I see at the end of this measure DC al coda, meaning going back to the beginning, all the way back to the beginning, and then I'm going to go to the coda. So when I see that coda symbol, then I will go all the way to the end. So I just finished here on these rests. I'm going to go back to the beginning because it says DC. Ta, 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 ta. Now on the second time to this, I'm now going to follow that coda all the way over here to that added ending. I have 4 beats of rest because this is a whole rest. 1, 2, 3, 4, then whole note. Ta, the end. All right. And last one, DS al coda. So now we're not going to go back to the beginning. We're going to go back to the sign, and then we're going to go to the coda. So starting at the beginning in 2/4, ta, 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 rest, ta, rest. Here's my instruction, DS al coda. So it means go back to the sign, ta, 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 rest. Now I'm seeing this coda sign a second time. Follow it to that added ending and go to the end. Ta, 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 rest. And that's it for articulation and road signs. I hope this made it clear for you. If you have any questions, as always, ask in the comments, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.